The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I'm one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
It is episode 70 of the Warren and Bradley Show, coming at you from a beautiful Bellingham, Washington, close to 70 degrees today.
Yeah.
Record high temperatures.
Yeah.
For this time of year. I was walking around. I'm trying to get all this shit straight that I've written down in my little notepad on my iPhone, because throughout the week something will occur to me or something will happen, and I jot down little notes. Some of them I don't understand afterwards. I'll come back days later and just read some weird random words, and I'm sure at the time it meant something to me, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. But I was reading this one note before you arrived at the Warren and Bradley Show studios today, and it just said therapy. And I was trying to remember what I meant by that. And then I think it was, last week I was very agitated and annoyed.
Yeah.
And I was reflecting on that. And for some reason this week, even though nothing has changed in my life, I'm still in my apartment alone all the time. I'm still like Minecrafting every once in a while, or like trying to write. I'm like trying to write a screenplay right now, and I'm just hanging around like singing weird songs to myself and
the same old like sad, lonely existence.
Which most people would look at and be like, "Wow, that's really depressing."
Yeah.
But for some reason, I was in a really good mood this week.
I know why.
Why?
The sun.
The sun?
Yeah.
I don't know if that really has an effect on me. Maybe it does.
I used to think it didn't, and I used to think it was irrelevant, but I'm coming around to a place where I'm like, yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Maybe it does, because I got off work early on Friday, and it was a sunny day, so I was like, I'm going to go home, and I'll shower, and I'll go downtown. And, often I describe me wandering around downtown and just being like, horrified by people. But for some reason on Friday, I was just like, hey, walking around and seeing people go by. And I think that's what I was thinking when I was thinking that this show should just be called, like, my therapy session, because it's mostly me just spouting shit off. And it's, since I don't have a girlfriend and don't have, constant social contact, they're all the conversations I would have normally, but I just have them with you on the weekend. And so it's me, so that's why it's so Brad heavy, I guess, where I'm like, just trying to discuss all these things.
You bottled up a lot during the course of the week.
But, so and it was just such a weird change, because I was, sitting in my table in the bakery, looking out the window, watching these people go by, skinny people, fat people, ugly people, attractive people, and just feeling this like, this great warmth and brotherhood towards all these people as they were walking. And it would be weird if that were only the sun that was responsible for that.
I never used to believe in the sun thing, but it's the sun.
Yeah, I don't know.
It makes like my walk over here was pleasant today.
Yeah.
It was like nice and sunny. People were out doing things. People were talking to each other. Mm-hmm. It makes a huge difference.
Maybe it's also me reacting to the pleasant attitude that everyone else has.
Well, it affects everybody a little bit, right? It makes everybody a little bit happier.
Yeah.
And it just makes everybody a little bit more outgoing, and it lets everybody like feel like they should be outside and doing things rather than just this monotonous gray that we live in constantly, this black and white movie. And it's like, in The Wizard of Oz, going into Oz, and everything turns to color, and it's like a magical time.
Yeah, it does. I think it's because we live in such a gray environment most of the time that it has that reaction. Because when I lived in LA, it was always sunny, and it just becomes oppressive after a while. And so,
you don't appreciate it.
No.
No.
So I guess my whole idea that we live in the perfect climate still holds true, because we get to enjoy the highs more.
It's not perfect, though.
It's perfect. Yeah, the other thing, I was just watching women walking by. I have very specific taste in women. There's a certain...
But fetish, maybe.
I don't know.
To the point of fetish, yeah.
Thin. And it was really differentiated the other day because, yes, granted, there are certain women there's a certain kind of woman who I find attractive, but maybe I don't get this point across. It doesn't mean that I'm like disturbed by other women. It's just I'm not attracted to those women.
But you talk about it in a way like you're disturbed by them.
Yeah. But I was just watching all these girls walking by this parade, and some of them, since it was a whole 60 degrees, everyone was wearing like tank tops and little shorts and stuff. And many of them I was not at all attracted to, but I was still just struck by they're so great. Women. I don't know. And this isn't some weird, like, me trying to make up for all the horribly misogynist things that we joke about all the time. Because I don't really believe those things. I just think it's funny. But I don't know. I was struck, I guess, not just by women, but by men, how there's billions of fucking people on this planet. And a lot of the time I become... It becomes this weird, oppressive walls closing in thing with me, where I'm just like confronted by all these personalities, and I'm just like, oh. But then, because of my mood, for whatever reason, I was in a good mood. Just watching all these people, all of whom are unique individuals with unique life experiences. Like, it's just so bizarre, but it was in some way insanely exciting and interesting just to see these people.
We have passed into the realm of hippie bullshit here, definitely.
Yeah.
But that's good. It's a much better attitude. It's a much better attitude than the usual attitude you have, where everyone's making you angry all the time because they're not doing exactly what you want them to do. Well, rather than just be like, oh, look at all these people. This is really interesting. There's a lot going on out here.
I don't care what people do as long as they're not confronting me with the shit that they do. Yeah. But I don't know. It was just a strange sense of sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, like brotherhood that I was feeling with everybody.
Strive for that more often.
Yeah, that was good. Well, but then it was shattered because I was...
What happened?
I was sexually harassed in the bagelry.
Really?
It was a weird situation. The layout of the restaurant, there's this bar that faces the windows that look out. And I was sitting at one of those, like, looking out onto the street. And there was this older couple sitting at a table behind me. Yeah. And they just looked like some kind of, little churchgoers or something. Just older, middle-aged, nice-looking couple. And this guy came into the store and recognized the couple. And he was sort of this middle-aged dude who just looked normal. And they were like, oh, and they waved at him. And you get the impression they hadn't seen each other in a while or something. Yeah. Didn't know each other well, but they were acquaintances. So he starts walking over to their table, and as he walks, I catch this look out of the corner of his eye where he goes, and like gives me this weird leer. First of all, I didn't think, oh, he's obviously gay just by seeing him. Yeah. But then that look was kind of weird, but I thought, okay, maybe I'm just imagining things. Yes. But as he walked by, the table was kind of close to, my back was to the table, and the table was kind of close to me, and he very blatantly brushed against me as he walked by me.
It wasn't necessary?
It wasn't necessary, but again, I was like, well, it is kind of...
Did he brush by you with the front of his body?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
But that put his back to them. Yeah. So he went, like, crotch forward to me and then turned around to talk to them. And again, I was like, okay, it's close quarters. Maybe that was incidental sort of thing. So then as he's talking to this couple, he had his hand behind his back with the palm out. And he kept moving closer and closer to me. And then... brushing his hand up against me, and it was like my thigh, like ass kind of area. And so I turn around and I look at him, I give him this look, and he goes and gives me this weird look back, but doesn't really acknowledge that he did anything. And I'm still I still can't quite tell what's going on. And he continues talking to them, and then his hand gets like, oops, I'm accidentally touching you again. And he's just holding it there, and then it starts traveling up my back. And so again, I turn around, I'm like, give him a look. Okay, he takes the hand away. Finally, it goes right on my ass, palm out. And so finally, I just went, hey. I turn around and go, hey, stop touching me. And he goes, what? What are you talking about? And the couple that he's talking to are just like, oh my God, what's going on here? Because they had no idea anything was going on. And to them, it's like me acting like a psycho or something. Yeah. And the guy's like, what are you implying? You know exactly what you're doing, and I want you to stop right now. Yeah. And he was just, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But then once I, wasn't putting up with any of his bullshit, he just sort of deflated. Yeah. And was like, okay. And so if he hadn't been doing anything, I don't think he would say that.
Again, I'll say this the same thing about a lot of your interactions with people that continue to escalate and stuff like this. If something like this had happened to me, the initial time something had happened, I would have turned around and be like, I'm going to kill you now. You know what I mean?
Well,
but it kept happening, and you just were like,
but I wasn't sure. Like, you don't want to jump down someone's throat right away, because I'm not homophobic or weird or anything, and it's just
no,
like,
it doesn't have anything to do with homophobia. It has to do with people like touching you.
Yeah.
That's inappropriate.
Well, I looked at him. I was like, gave him a look, like, what's up?
I would have told him to fuck off.
Well, I did eventually.
Yeah, I know. But at that time, he had basically had his way with you.
Well, maybe I wanted a little field cop to me or something. I don't know. But once I was sure what was happening, then I confronted
From his standpoint, though, the fact that he's doing this, you're just kind of like hanging with it. I would escalate too, probably, if I was him.
When I turned around and looked at him, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I was giving him a look.
He
like,
may have misinterpreted the look.
Maybe.
No one misinterprets like, don't fucking touch me.
Well, I also think that people who are into like copping a feel of people surreptitiously, maybe they kind of like the idea that you're like made uncomfortable by it.
Oh, there's that sexual thing where people like to rub up against people in public places.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Maybe he has that.
Maybe.
But that's the part where he like rubbed against you walking by. I think that's what they do. But as far as like taking their hands and like
it was really weird.
Back,
like he had the palm back and like he kept like, ooh, I don't know. It was annoying. It reminded me one of the first times I ever went to a local bar, Rumors, in town, when I was like 21. It's a bar that is ostensibly a gay bar, but it was the only place that people would go to dance back in the day. So there would be straight college kids and stuff that would go there. And so there was this weird melding of different cultures, like a bunch of 40-year-old gay dudes with mustaches.
There was another dance club in town, but that was mostly mostly people there were like violent, angry people like generally homophobic weirdos.
Yeah.
So the Rumors is always a much more fun place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was I think it was the first time I'd ever gone there. I was 21 and I was in the bathroom. And by that point, I hadn't had a whole lot of experience with the homosexual male. And this guy, when I was standing at one of the urinators, yeah. I like that. I was standing at one of the urinals, urinating.
Yeah.
And this guy came up, and first of all, there's 3 urinals.
Yeah.
I was on the far left one. He could have gone to the far right one, but he went to the one right next to me.
Which is not something that usually happens.
Men do not do that.
If you're at
normally.
like a baseball game.
If there's room, then
you go to the farthest one away.
You take the room, yeah. Men don't do that normally. So he went there, and then I could see him like trying to look at my penis while I was urinating. So I was like edging away and like trying to move my body away. And then finally he just went out and like tried to grab my penis. And my reaction at that point was to hit him in the face, that's a fine. Yeah, which I probably wouldn't do now. I would probably just be like, "What the fuck are you doing, you idiot?" But at the time, I was 21. I just went, bam, and popped him, and he went, "Oh!" and like fell down, and then got up out of the bathroom and ran out of the bathroom. And so I chased him out of the bathroom, and I think I was there with my older brother and some other people. And I don't know. I mean, once he hit him in the face, I don't know what else I needed to do.
There's nothing more.
I don't know if I was going to just like bash him completely or something. And I chased him out of the bar, and
but this is the thing about that, doing that though in a urinal, even if you were another gay person, and that's not a way to advance towards someone.
Well, this is what happened. One of my brother's friends who was there, I can't remember her name, some female friend. She was like, "What are you, homophobic or something? I can't believe you hit that guy."
That's not homophobic.
And I was like, wait a minute. If you're a woman and I'm a man and I go up and try to grab your vagina, that's fine. No, it's not fine. I don't care if you're gay or straight.
And
or
if she
anything.
tried to stop you, it would be heterophobic. Apparently,
what the fuck is that? There's this weird shit with like gay people should be just as respectful as anybody else.
Yes,
and you being affronted by somebody like some unwanted touch or anything, there's nothing homophobic or weird
if you've
about
been
that.
outside the bathroom on the dance floor and this guy come up to you and been like, "Hey, you want to dance?" And you have been like, "No," and he would have been like, "Okay." If you would have punched him, if he would have asked you that, that would have been homophobic.
That's homophobic. And there are some like douchebags who like the fact that a gay person looks at them, they're like, "Oh, fuck you, fag," and
that's
punch
gay
him in the
bashing.
face. Yeah.
But being like touched or molested by people in an unwanted way, regardless of gender, regardless of sexual orientation, it's not something you're supposed to do.
How far do you take it? Like, I don't want to be homophobic, so eventually I'm going to be sucking a guy off because I don't want to. It's like, come on. Yeah. That's kind of a weird tangent that we got off into right away. But, oh, wow, we've gone really long on this first section. I love the fact that even though we're just going to end up talking more in the second section, I need to end this. And so we can go.
Yeah, you're set in your ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So we'll do that right now. Okay, so in spite of my feelings of brotherhood and goodwill towards my fellow men, women, and children, there were a few things that bothered me.
I bet.
At one point, I was out, and the weather is hot for Bellingham. It's 60 degrees right now, or maybe it's almost 70 degrees today. But I was out on the street, and there was this hippie dude wearing a pullover sweatshirt and then overalls over the sweatshirt. And he was about to get on his bicycle. I guess he was feeling a little warm. And so he took down the suspender parts of the overall and then pulled his sweatshirt off and was wearing no shirt underneath, and then just put the overall. I don't know what it is with hippies and
That's
overalls.
a good look. Yeah,
it's really obnoxious. But as soon as he did this, now granted, he was like 20 feet away from me.
Yeah.
This overpowering hippie body odor stench just flooded the entire street. And it was so hilarious because I was watching this procedure, so I knew from whence the smell came as soon as it came. But there are all these people sitting in front of this coffee shop, trying to eat their scones and have their coffee. And I could see them like screwing up their noses and looking around like, what the fuck? What? And it was the entire street. His odor completely. This is worse to me than somebody assaulting me physically. The smell was so bad, and he was affecting everyone around him. Everyone was disgusted.
I'll say this about bad smells you smell on the street when you're walking around.
Yeah.
You knew where it was coming from, so I think it was a little bit better for you. If you just are walking down the street and suddenly there's like a cheesy shit smell.
That's what it was. It was like fermented cheese.
And you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
It actually makes me angry.
It does, yeah.
Because I'm like, what the fuck? What is this rotting around here? If I see like a pile of shit and I'm smelling the shit, it doesn't bother me as much. If I'm just randomly smelling shit somewhere in my house.
That is like a weird psychological thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's the knowledge of not knowing where it's coming from makes it much worse.
I had this weird thing where I was smelling urine whenever I opened my closet.
Well, yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And I couldn't, and I would put my face in there and I was sniffing everywhere, and there was no place where I could smell. It was like just this general urine smell, but not concentrated anywhere. And I know I have not been pissing in my closet or anything.
No.
It was just ridiculous. It was driving me insane.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's gone now. It doesn't smell like urine in there anymore, so I don't know what was going on.
That's a real mystery.
It's really annoying. Phantom smell.
As I was walking up to the building today to do this podcast, some guy was walking into your building. He had some flowers, and some hippie guy was like a block away, and he yelled like, "Hey man, hey!" Like he knew the guy. Then I came around the corner. The motorcyclist out at Sunny, and the guy with the flowers had gone to the building apparently, and the hippie just like sat down on the stoop there. And I was like, oh god, this guy's gonna try to get in the building when I go up here. So I like walked around him and went up there, and then as he was sitting down, he went, "Oh, I didn't just do that," and he had sat on his donut apparently. And then he pulled his donut out and he was eating it. And I was like trying to, I was calling you.
Donut in his back pocket. Was it wrapped in anything?
Yeah, it was wrapped in something, but he squished it. And so I was like trying to get you to buzz me in. And I was like, oh god, he's gonna be like. And I was trying to decide at that moment if I was gonna be like no, or if I was just gonna be like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I don't care either.
Yeah, I would probably just let him in. Yeah.
Oh god, what else was I irritated by? Oh. Another bagelry-related story. You get the sandwiches there, Warren, and they give you a little bag of chips with the sandwiches.
Yeah, and a pickle.
Now, I love the pickle.
Pickle's great.
I like a chip with my sandwich.
Yeah.
But not literally a chip. And that's what you get in these fucking bags.
There's very little in the bag.
I opened the one I got the other day. I opened it up. There were 3 chips and then some crumbs that fell out. Now, I blame Frito-Lay for this. It's almost worse than having no chips at all because it's like, oh, you want chips? Here's some fucking chips, asshole. And they just give you like 3-4 chips and some broken up crumbs.
The quantity is odd. It's so little that it's like weird that you would even wrap it up.
Why even bother?
Yeah, and the other thing too, it's like if at Frito-Lay, at the factory, they put a couple more chips in there, it wouldn't cost them anything.
I don't think so.
Right? It would just be like a little bit more in there.
Can you even buy these bags as a consumer?
No, I don't think so. I think you have to buy them. You go to like Costco or Cash and Carry.
Supply or
something. And then you open them up and they're not available for individual resale because no one would buy them because people would be like, what am I going to pay for this? There's 3 chips in here.
The amount of packaging required.
The packaging is much heavier than the chips.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a waste of packaging.
It's a real fuck you to whoever orders the chips.
Well, if you're sealing chips, like very few little chips and this giant like plastic or whatever it is.
And it's filled with air, so it seems plump.
So it seems bigger, but really there's no chips in there.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
I heard a rumor, though, today. New bagel shop opening up in town. The girlfriend actually told me about it. She's like, I wonder what Brad will do. Will Brad go there? And I'm like, I don't know.
Check it out. I doubt it'll steal my business. I've got such a rapport, a relationship with the bakery, with the people who work there.
And the other thing is, our town, we have like just a couple restaurants that have been here for generations, and then we have restaurants that come and go every 3 months. And it'll probably be one of those restaurants.
You know why we have the restaurants that have been here for generations? The ones that have been here forever are the ones that pick one thing and do it well.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, we're this eclectic hippie focaccia, like just pick something and do it well. Don't try to be this ridiculous eclectic, like quirky restaurant where you have all this shit. I just want, when I want something, I want that thing, and I want the best example of that thing that I can get, you know?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this bagel place does.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because the thing is, if you're a bagel place and your bagels aren't good or just mediocre,
That's it, yeah.
no one's going to go, right?
Because you're a bagel place.
Because you're the bagel place.
Yeah.
And you,
yeah, I mean, I've been to coffee shops, and they have horrible coffee.
yeah.
It's like, this is your business. This is what you do, and it's awful. Am I here for the ambiance, the weird shit you have all over the walls, and, and the little Scrabble board games you have on a table somewhere? It's pointless.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else have I got on my little list here? Yeah, I can't remember if we had this conversation on the show or not, but when I had written down my horribly emotionally scarring experience of being sexually harassed by the guy in the bagelry, I wrote down how my reaction to it is just to get angry and not to be disturbed or like upset or anything. And so I wrote down mention the raped by the bear conversation. So like,
oh, I remember you, like,
I don't know.
You would be like, if I got raped by a bear, I'd just be like, oh, damn it, I'm raped by a bear. You just move on. It wouldn't bother you.
See, I don't remember if we ever had this on the show or not, but I think this was like at a bar once we had this whole conversation. Because
I know how this conversation ends, though.
No, we won't go there. But basically, my response to sexual assault.
Yeah.
And I use the example of a bear as an extreme example. So if I'm wandering through the forest, enjoying myself, communing with nature, and suddenly the giant bear comes out, I play dead, and it somehow gets my pants off and starts raping me, which they are known to do. They have a propensity for this. I would be annoyed.
Yeah.
I'm sure in some pain.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're packing, really. I don't think I've ever seen a bear penis before.
Neither have I, no.
I would assume it's in somewhat proportion to the beast itself, and they weigh like, 900 pounds?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah,
the grizzly bear,
big guys.
They're big.
So I'd be raped by the bear.
Yeah.
I'd probably have to go to the doctor, and they might send like a psychiatrist or a counselor or something to the emergency room when they're like taking down my information.
They probably get like National Geographic on the line too, because it's such a weird thing to have happen.
But my response would not be, I can never love again. It would be, maybe I'll go find that bear and kill it.
So you understand the weird thing you're trying to say right now is,
yeah, I know, but
you're trying to tell rape victims.
No. It's
not a big deal.
That's not at all. I'm thinking. I think that maybe
this is the thing. You have this weird version of it in your mind. It's almost like a cartoon. A bear rapes you, and you're like, oh, that's kind of a weird thing. That's so much different than the terrifying situation of actually being some actual person like physically like dominating you and raping you brutally.
Let me say right now, that I completely understand the psychological horror that someone goes through.
I don't know. Then what is this bear talk?
But like, if I had been sexually molested as a child, obviously that would be deeply scarring for the rest of my life. I think the point I'm at now, though, I think I just get mad. I'd just be angry.
Well, yeah, you get mad. But that would be one of the emotions you'd have.
But maybe, I don't know if that's a male thing or if it's just unique to me or something.
I think that may be the kind of thing that you say if you're in a situation where you're not threatened with getting raped a lot and you've never been raped.
Well, yeah, it's difficult.
You think about it in a way, you're like, oh, that doesn't, I mean, that would be angry.
Well, therein lies the weird distinction, is that women have to worry about that and men mostly don't. And so often, like, you hear about, or you watch American History X or something, and he gets like raped by the giant frightening Nazi in prison. You're like, God, that sucked. It's portrayed as horrible, but it's not portrayed as him like, like shivering in his cell later or something, and he's just like pissed. Oh God, these Nazis raped me. And so it's weird to try to get the victimization aspect of it for men being raped, because it doesn't make sense as much. You know what I mean? It's obvious that women are being victimized when they're raped, because it's it's about power and some weird
It's just, it is that way with men too.
Yeah, even if I tried to imagine a situation where a giant Nazi was trying to rape me, I'd be like, damn it, stop it. Like, it would suck. But I don't know if I would be emotionally scarred afterwards.
You'd be emotionally scarred afterwards.
Maybe.
If you were
I'd
grabbed by a bunch of white
rectally scarred
supremacists
afterwards.
and brutally raped in a shower,
Yeah.
you wouldn't just be like, oh, damn it. It wouldn't be just like you just got punched or something by some guy.
I don't know.
It'd be brutally emotionally scarring, and you would have a very hard time handling it.
And I don't
but
want
you
any
would
of
also
our,
be angry.
I don't want any of our listeners to take it upon themselves to test this theory to see.
You're basically inviting it, though.
Nazis could rape me, bears could rape me, and I'd be fine.
But it gets back to, like, old people now, a generation that's dying, that lived during the Depression, are constantly scared of, like, not having enough food.
Yeah.
And will still hide food.
Yeah.
You know, decades after they had a problem getting food.
They put things in jars.
But it's really hard for people of our generation, almost impossible, to imagine being in that place where it's like you're going to hide food because during your formative years, you might not be able to get any more food.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it's hard for us never being in situations where we felt like we may have been raped at any moment or threatened with that sort of violence.
That's completely true. And I'm completely aware of that fact. Like, I understand. I mean, I don't understand what it feels like to be a woman, but I intellectually can know, okay, this is something that occurs and it's horrible and it's scarring and everything. But when I'm thinking of myself, and it doesn't mean that I'm transferring this to anyone else. It's just like when the idea of a bear raping me popped into my mind, I was like, like laughing when that image popped into my mind.
It would be horrible.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
It'd be so horrible. It would be unbelievably horrible. But I know what you're saying about that. Like, if someone attempted to rape me or something, I can imagine, like, being like that, like flicking that switch where I'm like, now I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, because to me, and rape is a very violent thing. And so to me, it would just be like being assaulted. And I've been assaulted in the past. I've had people try to stab me and punch me and shoot me and all these things. And so I would go to the same place in my brain, you know?
Yeah, it's different, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Rape, Nazis, bears.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's tough.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
First story on Celebrity Minute this week, Madonna's homeless brother lashes out at superstar sister. This is from WENN. Madonna's homeless brother has lashed out at the superstar for allegedly turning her back on him, saying his famous sister doesn't care if he is dead or alive. Apparently, Anthony Ciccone has been living on the streets of Traverse City, Michigan for almost 3 years after losing his job at the family's vineyard.
Yeah.
Isn't that a weird situation?
Yeah.
Madonna previously tried to help her sibling with his alcohol battle by paying for him to attend a rehab clinic in Texas 8 years ago, but the treatment was unsuccessful, and reports suggest that Ciccone has recently spent a month in jail for public intoxication and swearing in front of children.
Yeah.
Is that illegal?
Yeah.
So if a little kid comes up to you and kicks you in the shin, you go, you little shit, you can be arrested for this? Or
may have been threatening
depend on
them.
the principality?
I think doing something obscene around children is probably something is illegal in Michigan.
I read this whole story, and it's basically this guy is a degenerate alcoholic, and he blames Madonna and his family for not taking care of him when obviously if you're an alcoholic or an addict of any kind, if you don't want treatment and aren't ready for treatment, there's nothing your family can do to help you. And I'm sure they reached out to him 1,000 times. I know Madonna is an insufferable blowhard and an idiot, but I'm sure she was trying to get her brother help.
I'll say this about this street. We don't typically like Madonna. She seems to be really full of herself. But I'm sure she has plenty of money where she could just be like,
She's
okay,
worth $1 billion.
Yeah, it's like, here's a house you can live in.
Yeah.
Here's some food. Now you can live. And this guy's still probably out in the streets doing crazy things and complaining about how Madonna doesn't take care of him. This is his problem. This is his issue.
It's sort of like the Obama has the half brother that lives in a shack in Kenya or something. It's like, I don't know. What are you going to do?
He lives in Kenya.
Yeah.
What is he supposed to do?
You buy him a bigger corrugated metal shack? I mean, I don't know.
Well, anything you would do, right, wouldn't be enough.
No. I thought about this once, like, if I were to ever just come into a huge amount of money and I was like, okay, I'm going to give a bunch of money to my family, it would do more harm than good, I think. You know?
It does that for, I mean, that's the thing. Seeing the lottery winners, they all end
Yeah.
up like killing themselves in the pickup truck in the parking lot of a strip club or something, you know? Because it's like,
With like $400,000 in cash and like a duffel bag. And
the money can't buy you happiness thing is true in the sense that, like, if your act's not together, if you pile a bunch of money on top of that, you're not going to get your act together.
Yeah.
You just have to get your act together. And I mean, I'm sure Madonna it looks like she's paid for him to go to rehab. They've done what they can for him. It's not a financial issue. It's
No.
this guy's issue, and that's always the issue in these situations.
next story. Sean Penn's son Hopper, 19, screams at photographer and uses racial slur.
Well, I just can't imagine. Where would he have learned lessons like this?
with the role model like Sean Penn.
Yeah, it's strange.
This paragon of restraint, of conflict. I mean, now it is funny because now he's so sanctimonious. He's running around his like canoe in Hurricane Katrina, or like going to visit
Hugo Chavez,
I
yeah.
guess he's dead now, but. Wasn't there a paparazzi that was like hiding in his hotel room or something in the 80s, and he like dangled him off a balcony or something
Whoa.
back then? I swear that happened with Sean Penn. So anyway, he has a rich history of screaming at paparazzi, but recently, on March 26, he got into a verbal tussle with a nearby photographer. In a video shot by a fellow photographer, Penn and Hopper can be seen walking towards a building in Beverly Hills when the paparazzi begin to snap photos. Sean Penn just ignored it, but his son brushed angrily past the paparazzi and bumped into him. And the paparazzo said, "What the hell?" And then Hopper said, "You fucking kidding me?" And then they continued to scream at each other. And then he called him a fag. And then the photographer said, "Is that what you're teaching your son to say?" to Sean Penn. And then he yelled at an African-American photographer, "You are a fucking N-word," which I guess we can't say.
Are you
that.
afraid to say it?
Well, we said it before. Oh, yeah, we are quoting. We're allowed to say it. "You're a fucking nigger." He screamed that. Not you, Warren. He screamed that at the African-American photographer. I don't know if Hopper has done anything other than just be Sean Penn's son. Is he trying to act? Is he? I don't know.
I'm sure he probably is.
Probably.
They all are.
So I don't know if this will have any.
I doubt he's in medical school.
He looks freakishly like him.
He does. I know. They look really similar. Although he kind of looks like a Kennedy. Yeah. Doesn't he? He has that, like, never worked a day in his life, like, smug look on his face.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
All right. New study shows Shakespeare as ruthless businessman.
Wait, what? This isn't new. Don't we all know this?
New research depicts William Shakespeare as a grain hoarder, moneylender, and tax dodger who became a wealthy businessman during a time of famine. You know why these stories come out is because if it's all this 1%er bullshit, it's like, I don't know. It's this weird societal thing now we have where anyone who has succeeded or done great things, we have to show that they're like some horrible robber baron, or they've stood on the shoulder of the downtrodden to like get to the place they are in society. Shakespeare wrote plays, but he also owned land and apparently was hoarding grain during a famine. I don't know. What's the point of this?
I know, as much as we know who Shakespeare was, and we assume that he's the person that actually wrote the plays.
No, it was a woman who wrote all his plays.
That's right, or it was, God knows, somebody else. But, he was a very canny businessman, is my understanding. I mean, he had that theater, and it did very well, and he wrote these plays. Yeah. I think he did well for himself. That's
fine.
why he was doing it, too. I know we always want to look at things...
He doesn't do it just for the art.
In retrospect, right? Because we think of Shakespeare as this great artist, but he was, basically at the time, was, Roger Corman or something.
Well, when you're living in 16th century London, beset by plague and famine, it's a horrible place. You do what you can to get ahead in life, and he did what he could.
He wrote
and
popular
he was
entertainments.
successful. Yes.
He took other people's work and changed it, adapted it, and he made money off of that. But now, of course, we look at him and we perceive him as this great artiste, which is fine, but it's also like not... He was a man of his time.
Yeah. Justin Bieber's monkey quarantined in Germany following customs incident.
Wow.
All right, so
Holy crap.
he's already off the deep end now. Now he has a fucking monkey. It's only a little bit... So I guess Michael Jackson had the chimp and started lightening his skin. I guess Justin Bieber's going to have to start adding melanin to his skin or something and become a black man.
I was looking at the Us Weekly at my girlfriend's house last night, and they had a picture of him with a gas mask. Which it just makes you go, oh, what's going on
I read
with
that
you?
story too. Apparently that's like something they do to have games with the paparazzo. They put his entourage puts gas masks on and they run around or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
he's
just gonna be
probably
more-
in some hyperbaric chamber somewhere with his monkey, like jacking it off. I don't know. It's what the fuck are you doing with the monkey? It's a little capuchin monkey like Marcel from Friends. And I guess he landed in Munich. The Germans were like, why do you have this monkey?
Why do you have this monkey?
This monkey cannot come into the country. It must
I
stay in
love my
quarantine.
monkey.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I know that even if you bring a fucking cat to the European Union, you have to have all this paperwork and all these licenses
Yeah.
and everything. You can't bring a fucking monkey.
You can't bring an apple to California. You can't
No.
bring a monkey to Germany. There's no way.
So I don't know whatever happened to the monkey. I
I'm
don't
sure
know
they
if the
just
monkey's
paid
still
a
in
bunch of money
Germany or
and got the
something.
monkey.
Justin recently spoke to us weekly about the spate of negative press he's received. He said, "The biggest misconception about me is that I'm a bad person. I get upset about that. I have a big heart. I want to be a good role model, but some people want me to fail." Do you want him to fail?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what his monkey's name is.
And I don't usually want people to fail, but I would like to see him face some adversity and overcome it, of course.
Yeah, I don't want him. I don't want him to become another like teen star statistic and just completely ruin his life. But maybe gain a little perspective.
Yeah, become a little bit more of a human being.
You need to struggle and overcome some things to realize, to appreciate what you have to begin with, and then to move forward in life. Speaking of Justin Bieber, when he was in Germany,
Yeah.
his good friend Lil Twist
No, yeah.
apparently had a pot-fueled party at his house in Calabasas, California.
People are reporting about things that aren't true.
So, what a horrible life, though. I mean, if I were rich and famous and I had a big house in Calabasas and I went to Munich with my monkey, the idea that there'd be some weird little rappers
Twist.
running around in my house, like
Yeah.
doing God knows what. I guess there are all these pictures on TMZ where it had alcohol and marijuana all over the place and Lil Twist posing in front of a Bob Marley poster. But yeah, I guess while the Bieb's away, the Twist will play. I guess it was Lil Twist who was driving his Ferrari when the paparazzo got killed.
Why is he
guess.
hanging out with this little Twist guy?
'Cause
Who is Little Twist?
I don't know. He's some rapper dude. And I don't know what either of them are getting out of it, because I would assume Justin Bieber is not getting any street cred from hanging out with Lil Twist, and I'm sure whatever street cred Lil Twist might have is being destroyed by hanging out with Justin Bieber. So I don't know.
I don't know. I think street cred is like, I think that whole notion's gone out the window.
I think
at
it
this
is
point.
kind of gone now, yeah.
It's just all about being the news at whatever cost. Uh-oh.
Justin Bieber gets into an alleged altercation upon arriving back home in L.A. This happened a few days before he had gone to Germany. Apparently, while he was on tour, one of his neighbors was annoyed by all the noise coming from his house. I guess Lil Twist had been having other parties at Justin Bieber's home. So when Justin Bieber returned, he got into an altercation with the neighbor. Apparently, the neighbor is claiming that Bieber put his hands on him and assaulted him. And called him,
Listeners can't see this, but I just rolled my eyes.
Yeah, Warren rolled his eyes.
The whole thing about how you're being assaulted if some little this little guy touches you with his
Yeah.
hands. I mean, Justin Bieber could punch me as hard as he could, and I wouldn't call it assault. I mean, it's like, all right, buddy, calm down. But I mean, it's just, you assaulted me.
Sources in the neighborhood say that it was actually Bieber's car that caused the incident. Bieber got his car back during that morning, and the car was loud, and he was driving super fast, and it annoyed the neighbor. According to the source, there was no physical contact, just aggressive words. I can imagine living next door to Justin Bieber, though. That would really fucking annoy me, I am sure. I'm sure I would have some altercations with Justin Bieber and Lil Twist and
Well,
Lil
I know
whatever.
that if you're a very affluent person and you have a giant estate in Southern California, you're probably also the kind of person that doesn't like to have parties with Lil Twist next door to you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Or have some like little Canadian tool driving around in a car being like, vroom, vroom, I'm fast. And it's like, this is what I paid millions of dollars not to be around.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff I have to deal with at my house. When the white trash across the street is always like revving the engines on their motorcycles and cars at all hours of the night for no reason, and staring at them. And I'm like, stop doing that. Don't do that. That's an idiotic thing to do.
Yeah.
But if I had millions of dollars, I would move somewhere where I didn't have to see these gap-toothed yokels like revving
Justin
things all the
Bieber
time.
would move in next
But then
door.
Justin Bieber would move in and be like, look at me, vroom, vroom. And I'm like, oh, please, stop.
All right, I think that's enough time for Celebrity Minute on this week's Warren and Bradley Show.
Great.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
So I've been back at work for a few months now.
Yes. After your extended hiatus.
What's going on at my work. I imagine it's going on at lots of people's workplaces, maybe within lots of people's families. The females at my work are obsessed with gimmick diets. Mm-hmm. One of my coworkers for a long time was just eating kale.
Just kale?
Yeah. Like drinking kale drinks, baking kale and making kale chips.
What's the basis of this?
I don't know. It's some sort of thing that's supposed to cleanse you out, right?
Okay.
Another one of my coworkers, I was walking by her work area the other day, and there was this, what looked like an omelet in like sealed in plastic, like you buy it at the store, like an omelet.
That's weird.
I was like, what the hell is that, an omelet? She's like, yeah, it's an omelet. It's part of my like diet thing. I eat an omelet out of this plastic bag in the morning. And I was like, that looks disgusting. She's like, yeah, it's bad.
What the... okay. I'm sure we've talked about this 1,000 times. I don't care if we have before.
Yeah.
Fucking dieting. Eat less fucking food. That's all you have to do. Yeah. You don't have to eat kale. You don't have to eat these weird squeezable omelets out of a plastic bag. Just eat fucking less food. What do I eat every day? I eat shit. It's horrible shit, but I just don't eat very much of it.
It's the number of calories.
It's the calories. It's calories in and calories burned. It's not difficult. And all this shit about toxins and, I've got to do a cleanse. I've got so many toxins. And I'm a celiac and, I'm allergic to this and allergic to that. Go to a third world country. Nobody's allergic to shit in the third world country. You know why? Because they have better things to fucking think about. None of us are allergic to any of this shit either. If you're a starving Guatemalan somewhere, you eat whatever somebody shoves in front of your face and you're thankful for it. Here we are such pussies, it drives me insane. Thanks for bringing that up.
I've got another coworker. I think she like prepared all her meals for an entire month and froze them.
Yeah.
And because of some way of like controlling calories too.
Right.
The coworker that's eating the weird omelets out of like plastic, she gets up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and goes and gets yelled at by a trainer to do some weird thing and then she has to jump up and down and do all this stuff. So she comes into work early in the morning, just like limping around in pain, completely exhausted. Because it's a boot camp situation, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get things under control.
So you have to be torn down.
So you have to be torn down and like built up. The whole
and
notion.
She's paying for this too. Is what I love.
The notion of the boot camp is so ridiculous. If you want to lose weight and keep the weight off, you need to do something that you'll actually do for the rest of your life.
Boot camp is good when you're a soldier and you have to be trained to kill people because most people don't want to kill people. So you have to be torn down. You have to be built up again. You have to be turned in to make this instinctual response. You pull the trigger. Boot camp is not good for dieting because you're not going to live that way for the rest of your life.
You'll lose pounds for the month or two that you're doing the boot camp, and then they'll just come right back because you'll just go back to your life.
Always happens with these ridiculous diets because the diets are so fucking weird and so restrictive, and so because you're counting calories so much, you do lose weight, but then you just slingshot back and forth, and you get on some other stupid diet. Just fucking eat less. It's not complicated.
We've talked about it. It's all just like mental gymnastics about ways to get yourself to eat less calories.
Well, that's the whole thing, too. Like, people go, I'm going to go on a gluten-free diet because it's bad for me. I hate gluten. It makes me feel horrible. I'm allergic. I'm a celiac. And you're not. But you go and you start counting all these calories because you're paying attention to what you're eating all the time. So you probably do lose weight when you're on a gluten-free diet. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're eating fucking gluten.
No.
You could eat muffins all day long, but just eat one muffin every day. And you would lose weight. And that would be all gluten. It doesn't matter. I think people always want to say that it's not, in some ways it's not taking responsibility, even though it seems like they're doing something horribly restrictive, but it's like some special formula that they follow instead of just fundamentally changing their habit and their life. Like, okay, I'm eating too much and not exercising enough. And that seems so simple, but in some ways it's way more difficult than being like, there's some weird condition and some strange...
It's mystifying something that's the least mystifying thing in the entire world, which is you'll put on weight if you eat lots of more calories than you like burn during the day. If you want to lose weight, if you exercise a bunch and don't eat and you eat less, you'll lose weight. By and large, this is how it works, right? But I think the thing we're fighting, right? We're fighting our evolution. We're fighting the fact that like we desire to have these like sweet things and these high calorie things because that's the way we. For generations, that's what we were doing.
When you're a hunter-gatherer and food is scarce, you need to put on fat, you need to get these like high-calorie things, and you need to eat as much as you can when you get it because you don't know when you're going to be going without
lean
later.
Times, right? And what we haven't done is adjusted to the situation we're in now where anyone can get food at any time.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have any money, there's just people handing out foods at various places all the time. Just food everywhere. And I think like part of it is just like a mental thing, right? Or it's like it's fighting like this inclination we have to do this thing that we don't need to do anymore.
Right.
Which is true of a lot of things, I think, in our society.
What I don't understand is that people put themselves through these ridiculous, horrible diets and are miserable. And to me, it seems like it would be preferable to still eat the things you want, but just limit the amount that you eat.
But I think the whole like being miserable thing too has to do with like shame and like punishing yourself.
Maybe.
You know, and it's like feels good to like flagellate yourself about this thing because you're too heavy or something. This is true of just anything in life. People try to make dramatic changes and they put like deadlines on things and they're like, after Tuesday, you know, no more of this, no more of that.
Yeah.
And that basically never works.
Yeah.
What does work if you're realistic and you look at yourself and you're like, I like some certain things. I shouldn't eat that much. I shouldn't do whatever I'm doing too much. I'll just try to do less of it.
Right.
And I'll try to be constructive about it and do the best I can.
Yeah.
That's what actually works. Yeah.
Well, and I get shit all the time. Like, if I ever say anything about dieting or weight or anything, people are like, oh, well, it's easy for you. You're just genetically, you know, thin.
But no, it is easy for you.
But it is because, first of all, I'm not genetically thin.
But you
look
also...
Look at my family. Their point is that I can eat whatever I want, as much as I want, and I won't get fat. And that's not true. And it is true for thin people who are active. It is easier to maintain your weight because your metabolism has changed to a certain extent. If you're already fat, it is more difficult to burn calories because you have to change your body chemistry. You have to be, you know, building lean muscle increases your metabolism. Like, there's a whole process that takes place. But once you get to a good weight, it's much easier to maintain it.
Yeah.
And so it is difficult, but it's just, I mean, unless you have some sort of weird pituitary problem,
no, but
you can lose weight.
But this is the thing. With these people, right, that I'm talking about at work, they want to eat these foods.
Yeah.
They'll make them heavy, and that's what that desire they have throughout their day. And that's not a challenge you face, though, in general, right?
No, but, I mean, the other day I ate a cake.
Yeah.
And I can do that, though, because that day I was pouring concrete all day. And after I got finished pouring concrete, I did a shit ton of push-ups and crunches and, like, other shit. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not impossible. And it's not... There's no secret, weird, magical formula.
I think it is challenging for people. I just think that the mental approach to it, where you think you're going to, like, eradicate it with some sort of, like, Paris Island-style boot camp and then, like, some gimmick diet... It's not a sustainable way to live. Wanting to make everything pathological, right?
Yeah.
When really, there's a lot of things that go on in life. Like, I know a lot of children are diagnosed with ADHD. Mm-hmm. Basically, school's boring.
Yeah.
And they don't want to sit there all day. And
they're not disciplined properly. It's like,
but I mean, that's the thing. It's like, basically what they have to do is learn to not do what they want to do all the time.
Yeah. That's what growing up means, you know? You're a little kid and you're just filled with id, like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want whenever I want. And instead of, like, the parents, the school administration, everyone else thinking, okay, how do we, first of all, accept the fact that kids are hyperactive?
Yes.
And then try to channel that into something that's useful. No, it's like a pathology. There's something defective about them and we'll medicate them.
Yeah. And the way we've gone with this education thing, I don't want to get off on a weird rant here, but there was just there were many arrests made in Atlanta recently. Mm-hmm. I know the former like superintendent of schools was arrested because there had been cheating going on for like a decade, high stakes testing, and they were bumping it up because there were all these advantages for the staff there if they got higher scores, people would be fired, people would be promoted and stuff. Which is like, there's this weird game going on at this point between like the Attorney General's office in Atlanta and all these adults fighting over all these test scores of these kids, where it's like, it's almost irrelevant what's going on with the kids. Yeah. So they're just fighting over like numbers and stuff.
That's the whole, it's all about these weird standards. It's about graduation rates. It's all this shit and holding the teachers accountable. That's not what you need to do. You need to hold the kids accountable for doing their fucking work and learning something instead of having these strange... I remember when we were in high school, I was in a AP class, or it was like an honors English class. And at the time, the school administration was debating getting rid of the class because they thought it made other kids feel bad. that
Yeah.
they weren't in the honors class.
Yeah.
That is the exact opposite. You want to have shit like that. You want to have competition. You want to have the kids shamed into being like, okay, I'm an idiot. I need to learn something.
But that's where we're at though with things.
Yeah.
I know with the debate over like charter schools, I know there are a lot of people that are probably listening to this that are opposed to charter schools or anything like that. And probably maybe AP or IB classes, but because they think it leaves all these other kids behind. And it's like, oh, the lower performing kids will be left in a classroom without the high performing kids.
Yeah.
The lower performing kids aren't doing well anyways. They're not going to do worse.
Some people aren't going to go to college or shouldn't go to college. Some people should not be. Every kid can't be a fucking lawyer. We need people to take out the trash. We need people to be plumbers and electricians and blue collar people. And the idea that, okay, we don't want to separate the smart kids from the stupid kids because we need the smart kids to bring the stupid kids up. No. It just brings everyone down to the level of the smart kids or to the stupid kids. Because if you have some disruptive idiots in a class who don't want to learn, then nobody can learn.
Yeah.
You need to separate them. Like, okay, you are on a path. And obviously there are some kids who might fall through the cracks and you need to try to locate those ones and be like, okay, you might have some propensity. You might have some sort of ability. So we're going to try to nurture that. But if there's some kid just like, hi, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing and they don't care and they don't want to learn, fuck them, you know? Why does everyone need to go to college?
That's true, right? And that's the problem with people looking at like competition or kids striving and doing things and then seeing that as something that's detrimental for them. It's like, it's not.
That's the way the world
Even if
works.
even if some of the kids aren't doing that well and are behind the other kids and the other kids are jumping out ahead of them and those kids are being engaged in ways that are helping them advance, that doesn't hurt the other kids.
Yeah.
The other kids that weren't learning anything in the first place, now, well, they have something to shoot for, definitely, but they also like weren't learning anything in the first place.
Yeah, and the idea that kids are constantly like, oh, those smart kids, they don't care. They don't give a shit. People who got good grades, people are like, oh, they're smart. People who didn't, like, oh, they're dumb. It wasn't like this weird...
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
No.
You know? So what are we worried about?
You were in this honors class and stuff. It wasn't like that. I was not in the honors class. I was always striving to get in
Did
these.
you feel shamed by this
I felt
all
no
the
shame
time?
because I was spending the only energy I used in high school was to try to get in the lowest level classes, and they wouldn't let me. And it was a real struggle for me. I was like, I don't want to do this. Just let me go in the easy classes, so it's easier to cheat and just get through. But yeah, it wasn't like this is the thing. If I had wanted to be in those classes,
You could have been.
well, that's the thing, right? Or any of those kids. If that was so important and there was such a high level of shame in not being in those classes, you know what those kids would have done? You know what I would have done? We would have gone home and studied really hard.
Yeah.
But that shame didn't exist.
Come on. So, weight loss, education, we've solved both those problems.
Oh,
during the
we're
course
solving
one
lots
show.
of problems here.
Well, there we go. So I had another weird dream the other night. It was one of those dreams where I started losing teeth in the dream.
Yeah.
And then like my hair was coming out and it was like my body was falling apart.
It's a
kind of
very
dream.
common dream.
Yeah, and it supposedly has to do with like vanity or something weird, the dream interpretation.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. But it was making me think at one point in the dream, I had lost all the hair on my body,
Yeah.
like eyebrows, eyelashes, like everything was gone. And then in another part, I started growing like this weird pelt all over my body.
Uh-oh.
So this is completely pointless, but in the spirit of our would you rathers from the past, Warren,
Yeah.
would you rather
Yeah.
have alopecia over your entire body, no pubic hair, leg hair, ass hair, facial hair, no
Yeah.
eyebrows, no eyelashes, no hair in your
Yeah,
head,
yeah.
or would you rather become insanely hirsute and just have like a pelt all over your body?
Would it be completely like covered like a monkey?
Your face, it would be basically like you'd still have the hair on your head and your beard and your eyebrows and stuff, but then basically from the neck down, it would just be almost like a pelt all over your body. Maybe the palms of your hands would still be hair-free and the palms of your feet. Which would be worse, no hair at all or lots and lots of hair? This is just ripe for comedic potential.
This is interesting, actually, because it's tough. I'm thinking about it. The thing about the alopecia is, if people that have alopecia over their entire body, people always underestimate the importance of the eyebrows.
Oh, yeah.
And if somebody, as people who know they've lost bets and shaved off their eyebrows, you look really weird without eyebrows.
People look fucked up without eyebrows.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have eyebrows.
And not to mention the sweat in the eyes. Like, the eyebrows are there for a reason. They serve a very good purpose.
But at the same time, I'm always hot all the time.
Yeah.
So I definitely wouldn't want a pelt of fur. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I look at dogs running around in 90 degrees, and they get hot. But they can't sweat the way we can. You could
I'm gonna
still
go
just
hairless because the other thing is I don't want to like have to like shave the hair off.
Well, you wouldn't have to shave the hair off.
But I'd be hot. I'd have this like sweater on all the time. I probably want to.
Well, see, I
It
think
really
of it,
depends on the density of the hair, really.
Yeah, I'm thinking more.
If it was like chest hair,
Yeah,
all over my entire body, I would go with that, and I would be like a really hairy person
I'm
as long
thinking
as it was
more
on
like
my face.
more like a chimp. Like they have a little. They don't have as much on their chest, which is weird. They kind of have a little bare chest, but they have really hairy arms and all over down.
Okay,
the
I'm gonna go
legs and
hairy
everything.
then.
You're
Yeah,
gonna go hairy.
like not in a, it's hairy in a way like the most hairy a human could be hairy, right? Super hairy.
It's like a chimp.
Okay.
A chimp is pretty fucking
I'll
hairy.
take it.
Because I was thinking you could put on clothes and nobody would know anything, Like they might see some hair sticking out your wrist and everything. Because your hands would be like a normal. They might be pretty hairy on the back of the hand, but it wouldn't be like, whoa, that guy's an
You'd be the
ape.
person that like has the tattoos all over their body except for their like clothes goes and they go
Right.
to their office or whatever.
But then there'd be the problem of you're seducing a young woman at a bar or something, and you look normal from the neck up.
But you're Teen Wolf, really.
But you're Teen Wolf underneath, and so you get him home, and there's that awkward period where you have to sort of like bring it up or kind of hint around at it. I remember actually the first girl.
the alopecia is going to be that way too, though.
Well, the alopecia, they're going to see that you're bald and have no eyebrows.
But then when you get your clothes off and you got no, it's going to look weird.
Well, but I think I would say that the hair from the neck up is more important alopecia wise than the stuff from the neck
it's probably
down,
true.
because we were just talking about men shaving all their testicle hair
That's
off anyway.
true. People
so
might
they
see it
might
as an
just think, oh,
advantage.
he's so nice and hairless down below there. But then you'd be like Billy Zane up above it. But at least Billy Zane has eyebrows, so it's pretty tough. But I remember the first girl I ever dated. For some reason, I was thinking like, I had pretty hairy legs.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little hair on the old ass.
Sure.
And at the time, I'm like 18. I was like, I don't think anyone has hair on their asses. Because every time I ever saw pictures of like, you watch a movie or somebody moons somebody or something, they just have these white hairless asses. So
It's
I was
Hollywood's
Yeah.
nefarious influence
getting
on
the
the youth.
waxing
Yeah.
out for Mel Gibson and Braveheart or something. And so I was like, oh God, I'm some sort of freak with hair. And I don't have like a lot of hair on my ass. There's just some hair on my ass.
I'll take your word for it.
And so I remember that at one point I realized that things were going to get to the point where my ass might be seen by this girl. And so it was this horribly awkward thing where I was like, so I think you should know and I told that there's some hair on my ass. And she went, she was...
Well, she didn't know that.
She was really disturbed. And
Well, that's because she assumed that it was something weird because you thought it was something weird.
Because I thought it was weird, and so she's like, "Well, how much? I mean, what?" And I was like, and I sort of explained it to her, and she was like, "Okay." And then, of course, it meant nothing later. It was no big deal. Nobody cared. And then throughout the rest of my life, I realized that pretty much every man I know has hair on their ass, and it's not anything strange.
Sometimes Asian guys don't.
Sometimes, yeah. Or the Native American.
Yeah.
But it's just funny, like, the idea that you're a freak. I think that's kind of what being adolescent is
That's
about,
what I was going to
too.
say. I mean, that's why I think, like, the one lesson you learn from childhood and adolescence and puberty and stuff is that all the things you're worried about, there's no reason to be worried about them.
Well, that I can remember these conversations we'd have when all of us were starting to sort of go through puberty and the voices were changing and weird hair was developing places. And these conversations where nobody wants to admit that something's happened. Like you look down and you're like, oh God, there's hair there.
Yeah.
And you wonder, am I the only one? And so then everyone is thinking that. And then these weird, awkward conversations would come up where someone would be like, got hair on my balls. And they look around and everyone's like, so do I. And then everyone feels better about themselves. And it's like this weird where we're comparing all the strange things that are going on.
That's true. I think that's just true of life in general.
Yeah.
As you get older, I think that's why people generally get happier when they get older. You sort of realize that you exist as a child. And everything, it's a big deal if you don't get the right colored popsicle.
Yeah, the world
You freak
revolves
out.
around you as a child,
You
and
freak
everything
out.
affects
Everything's
you.
a big deal. Everything, you're so worried about this, you're so worried about that. Everything you're so worried about your entire life. Your interpersonal relationships, your relationships with your family and everything like this, your job prospects, what goes on in school. And looking back, you're like, what was going on? Why was I so worried?
Yeah.
I should just relaxed and shown up for everything. I would have been fine.
Yeah, I got hair on my balls, big deal.
But that's why I think it'd be nice. You want to talk about a hypothetical question for you here. If you could go back and relive your life again, and you sort of had that wisdom that you've learned over the years, I think your life would be much more pleasant.
Probably. I was thinking about that the other day, like imagining me in high school with my brain now.
Yeah.
Just how easy it would be, because everything is so dramatic and so important back then. And just, I mean, first of all, you'd be the coolest person. Everyone would love you because you would be just so calm and wise compared to all these idiots. And just...
You'd be like the Fonz. You'd be so cool.
Cleaning up on the women constantly, because you'd just be like,
hey,
baby, what's up? And, like, it's not a big deal. You're not all freaking out and, like, almost fainting when you have to talk to a girl. Like, I don't know. It's... but I guess the fact that you are that way...
Well, that's the youth wasted on youth thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's true.
Once you know how to live, you're too old to actually live.
And then, exactly.
Which is why my hypothetical about living forever is perfect. Because if you had a youthful body forever with all the wisdom of age... Oh, man.
Maybe.
You coming around?
I don't know.
Let's do it.
we can pull it off. I kind of prefer my idea where I would like a younger version of myself with the Carl Pilkington style birth.
Oh, right.
Where
out of the belly.
Out of the belly, and like another you will come out.
Yeah.
But you'll accumulate some of that wisdom, and you'll go through your life, and you'll grow up with a more wise person.
That's why you should just clone yourself when you get older.
We'll look into it.
I still think it's possible. I'm going to look into that, of cloning myself... growing the child up to be, about 24, 25, and then transplanting my brain into that body.
It'll happen someday. Somebody will try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything like transplanting brains. I know we've gotten to this point with medical science where we're like, just transplant that brain.
Yeah.
Or, transplant that heart. Still really tricky.
I think we'll get to the point where we don't even have to physically take the brain out. We'll just be able to map the brain, we'll be able to map the synapses, and we'll be able to realize what the actual chemical properties of memories are and personality, and we'll just be able to, like, warp that onto another brain.
We can't get rid of that sound effect, though. That'll still be there. All right, good.
All right, I think that's enough time for the Warren and Bradley Show this week. Warren has to get home and watch some basketball.
Duke and Louisville have tipped off here on Sunday, so I got to go.
Oh, my God.
And happy Easter, everybody.
Oh, yeah. He is risen. So this is one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
This is your host, Warren Van.
Saying...
I got nothing this week. I'm out of here.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.